And happy Monday to the people of the Philadelphia region. Welcome back to Fox Sports The Gambler right here. Not quite the happiest Monday here in Philadelphia, I would say. We're coming off losses. The first time that Jalen Hurts has started and finished a game and the Eagles did not come out victorious in a calendar year. And even worse, the Philadelphia Phillies dropping game one of the NLDS to give the Dodgers a 1-0 series advantage here. A lot to break down and not exactly the tone that I like to start with, but excited to dive into what went wrong and try and get the train back on the tracks here. I am Sean Barnard, and the guy with me to do that is Sam Oshtry there. Sam, how are we feeling after this weekend?
I mean, one of the worst weekends in Philadelphia sports in a long time.
Yeah.
So pretty awful. Thanks for asking, though.
Yeah, very fair there. And we are going to touch on both those, go pretty heavy into the Phillies and Eagles here, as well as a couple NFL takes around the league. And we're going to jump right in with the Philadelphia Eagles there. So I want to get your immediate reaction. Just start with the surface level, how you were feeling after they did not come out on top there. It is weird that this is now a foreign feeling to watch the Eagles lose a football game. This is not something that we are accustomed to seeing on a regular basis at this stage in the game. I forgot what it felt like to see their name have fewer points than the opponent when the whistle does go silent there. So what was your immediate reaction when they did not come out on top against the Broncos?
We've been spoiled for a long time
Sure.
of just wins and just finding way to win football games. I think this was a good wake up call.
Yeah.
Most first and foremost for the Eagles, and everything that they've been struggling with. That I think if you're winning games and the passing offense and the offense as a whole, the offensive line, the run game, all these issues that have been stemming. When you're winning games, you can kind of like brush that stuff to the side. Like, all right, we're still winning, so it's not that big of a deal. When you actually start losing and those losses start to pile up, that's when you really have to take a much harder look in the mirror and address these things that are going to prevent you from getting to your eventual goals and where you want to go, which is to ultimately win a second straight Super Bowl. So I really think it was actually a wake-up call. And this city and this, not in the Phillies, but this city for the Eagles needed a loss. And the Eagles as a whole needed a loss as a wake-up call. And there's a lot of specifics we'll get into of why maybe we should be concerned long-term. But just from a vibes perspective, I wasn't that furious that the Eagles lost because, look, I don't think this division is that good. I know what the Commanders did to the Chargers yesterday. The Cowboys defense stinks. The Giants still stink. This division isn't that good. The Eagles are going to be fine. They're too talented not to be. That defense is too good not to be fine. But I think from an offensive perspective, it was a good wake-up call. Like, we really have things to address. We have to start finding our identity. And we did that last year after a 2-2 start. If that team was 4-0, I don't know if we become a run-heavy team and Saquon Barkley and that offensive line have the dominant seasons they do. But it was looking at yourself in the mirror after a 2-2 start into the bye week last year when those offensive linemen went into Sirianni's office and said, we need to run the football. We need to become a run-heavy team. That's what did it. So I think a lot of times when you actually lose, it forces you to look yourself in the mirror and to address some of the things that have been simmering underneath for a long time.
Yeah, they've certainly been playing with fire for a couple weeks now, and I think everyone has been fairly cognizant of that. I will say, like, that Denver Broncos team, I think is a solid football team. Like, this is not a
solid. Dude, the Eagles have an unbelievable schedule this year.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they've had the hardest schedule in the NFL. Let's not forget that. They're still 4-1.
100% there. And like this is not a loss that I hang my head in terms of I feel differently about this Eagles team, but they are self-inflicted wounds that they have to clean up. And the number one thing that I want to start with here before we even get into the whole A.J. Brown drama, Saquon Barkley had 6 carries yesterday. That it just cannot happen pretty much under any circumstance. Never mind the fact that this team was playing a lead with the majority of this game. They were talking about them up 2 scores, up 14 points. They should be looking to burn clock and not effective in those brief opportunities overall. And Saquon's full stat line, he went 6 carries for 30 yards, 5 yards a carry there. His longest rush being of 17, which was nice to see. He did have 58 receiving yards and that touchdown catch by the air or through the air. By the way, Jalen Hurts being the guy that orchestrated that play call, and whether it was an audible on the fly or just straight up calling it, I do think that's worth noting based on the context of how we talked about the offensive play calling to this point here. How do you feel about the Saquon Barkley situation and really the fact that he has not gotten going yet this year?
There's a lot of reasons for it, but I think the running game is the biggest problem. And I told you that on this show last week when everyone was talking about the passing offense. I'm like, we've shown flashes throughout this year of being a great passing offense, even if it hasn't been consistent for 2 halves. The running game has been consistently bad. I mean, just to read you some numbers here, like Saquon had 5 games last year. He rushed for under 100 yards. He's already at 5 this year. He hasn't broke 100 once. And 3 of those games, he's been under 50 yards. He had 5.8 yards per carry last year, 3.2 this year. Here's the biggest thing, and this is a reflection on the offensive line. Last year, he had 3.8 yards per contact. He's at 1.9 this year. That's 33rd best in the league. The league average is 2.7. 1.9 yards before contact this season. That's on the offensive line. And I think it's a combination between who's to blame for the struggles with the run game. It's a mixture of Saquon inevitably having a worse season than he did last year, because that was an unbelievable standard to hold him to. 2,000 rushing yards was never going to happen again. But we didn't expect him to become a mediocre or below league average running back in terms of his production. No one expected that. Maybe a little bit of a drop-off, not that. That's a drastic drop-off where this was a run-heavy team last year, and you have to find a whole new identity if they can't rely on Saquon. So part of it's on Saquon for sure, and just that he's a little tired, banged up, whatever it is, coming off last season, which is inevitable. A lot of it's on the offensive line too, who just isn't getting the push that they do, and that yards before contact stat is a reflection of an offensive line. And the Eagles were the best in the league last year at 3.8. This season, there's a drastic drop-off. And there's injuries that are contributing to it for sure. Landon Dickerson did not even enter the year healthy. He had an injury in in training camp that should have kept him out the first few months of the season. And now
they should have done that, by the way. Like, they should have just rested him.
Yeah,
he hasn't looked right.
If he was healthy enough and he wanted to be out there, he's so good even at 70%.
But he hasn't looked right all year yet.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And now he probably will miss some time, honestly. Goes out yesterday in that game. But it's Cam Jurgens who hasn't looked right to me. He's dealt with a back injury the last year or so. I don't know if that's contributing to it. Mekhi Becton was better than Tyler Steen was ever going to be, but Tyler Steen hasn't been great. Then he gets injured. Matt Pryor comes in last week. Lane Johnson has had a couple games where he's been in and out. This entire offensive line, which has been the strength of the Eagles for a half decade now, really since the 2017 Super Bowl. They have the best offensive line coach. They've had the best offensive line in football for almost a decade. This is an average offensive line now. So when you take away that strength, it's hard to run the football as efficiently. And the third reason is when you look at the stacked box rate against the Eagles, it's way higher this year than through 5 games than it was last year throughout a full season. So they're dealing with a lot of stacked boxes, which obviously it's harder to run the ball again when more guys are in the box and taking away the run. So there's a lot of reasons for it, but right now though, they're not getting it going. But 6 carries yesterday was unbelievable. How does he even get 6 carries? Even if it's not going, you have to stay with the run game and be consistent with it and try it out, because you have to have more balance between the pass and run game.
Yeah, and you hit on a lot there. All very good points there. And I don't want to be too overly doom and gloom. The bottom line, this team is still 4-1, is still going to be a playoff team, is still going to be a Super Bowl contender, and I still look at them that way. Nonetheless, they do have to clean up these issues. The stack box, I do point that to play call. That to me comes into, you have to keep opposing defenses honest. I think especially in the first couple weeks of the season, they were poor about that. I think there's been a little more these past 2 weeks from Jalen, and I have a gut feeling that that's coming directly from Jalen, not from Kevin Petula on the sideline. The bigger thing that jumps out about just the 6 carries to me is it's not just the fact that Saquon is getting 6 carries. A.J. Dillon gets 2 and Will Shipley gets 1. What are we doing to mix these guys in? Give Saquon the rock. He's the best player in football, according to the voting that was done a couple months ago by the very players themselves. We know what an elite talent is. I'm not blaming this on him. I do think you're absolutely right that the offensive line is the root of this, and it's strange for that to be an issue because that has been such a common strength of this team. We've seen Kenny Gainwell run for electric yards. We've seen, DeAndre Swift run for 1,000. Miles Sanders run for 1,000 behind this offensive line. That Saquon Barkley should not be having this level of struggles, and that's where things do break down there. I think they need to get back to that being the identity in a way that has. But
it's just tough because I agree. Of course, I want running the football to be the identity, but with an injured offensive line, do we trust that they're ever going to be able to get to that point that they were at last year?
That's a fair point. Well, let's bring it to the other side of the offensive conversation, which is, of course, the passing game here. Now, the raw numbers actually looked pretty solid yesterday when you look at them. Jalen Hurts, 23 for 38 for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. We had Devontae Smith of 8 receptions for 115 yards. A.J. Brown, 5 for 43, was targeted 8 times. Of course, the biggest play that jumps out to me is that long pass from Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown that we saw the stutter step. I do straight up just have an issue with that from an A.J. Brown perspective. I don't like him calling it just a miss after the game. I would have liked him to stand up there and take a little bit of ownership in the same way that he did at the start of the week, saying, yeah, that was my bad. I didn't run my routes. You cannot have it both ways, A.J. Brown, that you're complaining about lack of targets and not running out your routes there. If you want to talk all your big game while you deserve the ball every single time it's in the air, then play like that on an every play basis. And I did not get the feeling that was that A.J. Brown yesterday. So this is probably the first time that I'm starting to feel a little bit of frustration with A.J. Brown in a way. I understand closed mouths don't get fed. I understand he's a star wide receiver and you put up for it. Star wide receivers are going to do star wide receiver things. The fact that he did not run out that route, which would have been the dagger yesterday, I have a huge issue with.
It kind of showed to me the distrust he has with Jalen Hurts as a passer.
Definitely.
And which he's talked about openly, and it's been a distraction for the team going back to last season. He hasn't said it explicitly, but there's a lot of signals to say that maybe him and Jalen Hurts have a good relationship, even though Brandon Graham said they didn't really.
Right.
But whatever the relationship is off the field, he doesn't trust him that much as a passer. And you can't really even blame him. Last week, there was, and Jalen Hurts is great, but last week there was a slant route that was really behind A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown didn't catch, or he did catch that one. This week, same thing. He was throwing the ball behind A.J. Brown on some of those slants, and A.J. Brown missed one this week. When he stops on that route, that's him saying, I don't think I'm going to get the ball. Like,
correct.
He's not throwing this ball. I'm just giving up on this route. And then he realized the ball is thrown, and he tries to catch up. That is 100% on A.J. Brown. And that play, more than any words he's ever said, shows the distrust that he has with Jalen Hurts, where he's like, he's not throwing this ball. But back to Hurts. I thought Hurts played really well as a high-volume passer. Like, the concern with him has always been if he passes the ball 35 to 40 times a game, he's going to turn it over. He's going to make bad decisions. Again, no turnovers. He's on a great streak of no interceptions. He threw the ball 38 times, 280 yards. But that doesn't include the A.J. Brown deep ball. That was a good throw from Hurts, and that was on A.J. Brown, which would have been who knows how many more yards. And then also, how many?
The Jahan Dotson one, too.
Yeah, yes, but also the Smitty one, which was also would have iced the game, which was a brilliant long ball and a great pass from Smitty that obviously got called back because of illegal formation on Saquon Barkley. So I thought the raw numbers didn't even illustrate how good Hurts played as a high-volume passer. So when it's like, yeah, you want the identity of this team to be a run-heavy offense when you have Saquon, when you have the names that they have on their offensive line, Hurts has also shown that he's capable of airing it out. And it's not him who was let down this year. I mean, that ball to Jahan Dotson you're referencing on that left sideline was a dot. I mean, it was a perfectly placed ball. It's a really hard catch. I'm not going to blame Jahan Dotson, but again, that's more on the receiver than it is the quarterback. There's a lot that happened around Jalen Hurts that was on his teammates more than Hurts. Because I thought Hurts balled out, and he did good. He played well enough to win that football game and to carry the offense without the running game being a factor at all. So this was a great game from Hurts, and this is all on his teammates around him.
Yeah, and still, by the way, doing like the Jalen Hurts characteristic of like the non-turnover, like he turned down several plays that I was like in doing, couch quarterback thinking you can make this, and you see him like turning it down for not risking turnovers, which is on brand and winning football in the way that we expect him to play there. I think I've hit my peak of this is the first time I have a little bit of actual frustration with A.J. Brown. Where are you at on that side of things?
Yeah, no, I agree because like I said earlier, that's evidence that he has distrust in his quarterback. When he stopped, he didn't think he was getting that ball because he didn't think Hurts was going to throw him that ball. And that's, for lack of a better term, that's just bad. Like that's bad chemistry between your star wide receiver and your quarterback. And we know that's been simmering, but it hasn't mattered that much because the running game has been their identity all of last season. And they did enough in the passing game where Dallas Goedert is a great weapon. I mean, the play when Jalen Hurts rolls out to his right and hits Dallas Goedert for like 7-8 yards guaranteed every time is such an effective play. Smitty's having a game like he had yesterday, he's unstoppable. And part of that is because A.J. Brown, when he's alongside A.J. Brown demands so much attention and coverage that he opens the field up for Smitty. So, yeah, I'm frustrated with A.J. Brown. It's hard not to be because after everything he said this week and he had the opportunity to ball out and rack up those yards and that he desperately cares about and wants, his statistics, we know that. he let the team down in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's there's no reason not to be frustrated with him right now. But it's like, where do they go from here? This team doesn't have an offensive identity right now, and their special teams is great. Their defense has been phenomenal. They just don't have an offensive identity, and I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be or if they're going to figure it out, because this offensive line is not getting healthier as the year goes on. I mean, their next 3 weeks look like Giants, Vikings, Giants. 3 very winnable games that should be 3-0. You never know in the NFL, obviously.
Probably the easiest stretch on their whole schedule right there.
100%. And then they have a bye week. So, like, that's an opportunity for that offensive line and everyone to get healthier. But it's hard to get healthy as the year goes on. And if this offensive line never gets back to what they were last year as a healthy unit, then they're never going to be able to run the ball as effectively as they did. And that can't be their identity. So then what is their identity? And that's what they're struggling to figure out.
Yeah, all very well said there. 2 final questions to wrap this up. To keep on the A.J. Brown thing real quick, do you think this is it's going to get worse before it gets better type of thing? Or did we finally hit the valley of this is where we're at our worst and they begin to rebuild things from here?
I think it could definitely get worse before it gets better. I mean, I can imagine quite a few things that A.J. Brown could say or tweet or do that could make the situation way worse and untenable.
I think Jalen should quote tweet him pulling up on the route and throw a little Bible verse over top that. That would be my move here.
Jalen's too good of a leader for that. You know, like, it might be time to sell high on AJ Brown.
The cap hit is ugly. They can't do it this year. They just can't from a financial perspective. I do think that there is some weight to maybe in the offseason having this conversation. But at the same time, you're AJ Brown, dude. Where is the grass greener? Where are you remotely?
Oh, no, it's not about A.J. Brown. It's not that he wants out. It's that the Eagles are just sick of his stuff, and they want him out at this point. And they're like, Smitty can be a wide receiver 1. Maybe we get another young wide receiver to bring in that trade. So it's just it's not even about if A.J. wants out. It's that you're sick of it already.
Yeah. That's valid. We'll see. I hope we don't get there. I hope AJ can get his head back screwed on straight and be a guy who's been one of the best wide receivers in football and a really key part of this Eagles football team for the foreseeable future. The last question here. Is there any ref blaming going on in your house?
Oh, yeah. We didn't even talk about the refs. And look, I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad it took us 17 minutes to talk about the refs because they didn't lose the game because of the refs. They could have easily overcame the refs, which we've seen them do the last 20-something games, whatever it was that they've won with Hurts starting and finishing games. There's been some awful calls against them. They just go more unnoticed because they'll end up winning the football game. So it's not as much of a discussion. So I actually think Sirianni put it really well in the postgame where he said, look, yeah, there might have been some bad calls, but it balances itself out throughout a season, throughout multiple seasons. That's just the nature of the game. But it's been a while since the Eagles got screwed by the refs, which they did yesterday. I mean, those were 3 awful calls in the fourth quarter. Illegal formation, fine. That's on Saquon. Has to be more disciplined. The Eagles as a whole have to be more disciplined, and they're going to watch the film and review that, of course. But those 3 calls, the intentional grounding, which there was nobody even near him, and I don't want to hear Gene Steratore say another word for the rest of his life. I mean, that guy agrees with the officials. The officials could say anything. And that guy would agree with the officials. There's no point. He doesn't add anything to a broadcast. What are we doing, producers? Putting a reffing analyst who will never dispute an official's word in a broadcast like that. Regardless, that was not intentional, or it was intentional grounding. There was nobody in the area. They called the flag and they picked it up. There was no explanation.
Just crazy.
That crew had no grasp on the football game, no control over what was going on, especially in the second half. That's an awful call. The personal foul on Zach Bond, awful call. He was still sliding, and he came in the second after he was sliding. I think the official probably thought that he was down, but when you actually look at the replay, he's still sliding. He wasn't down. He wasn't down. So it wasn't it wasn't a late hit. The official was just clueless and couldn't see what was going on. I get it. Bang, bang, play, whatever. That is a drastic call, 15 yards in that moment. And first then, of course, and those 2 plays are bigger than the Dallas Goedert penalty that late in the game, or the one that wasn't called, pass interference on him.
But dude, if you're getting 1 play at the 4-yard line versus the Hail Mary that they played,
100%, they're all game changers. I just don't think the Broncos scored a touchdown on that drive without the intentional grounding and the personal foul on Zach Bond. But yeah, then the third one where that's as obvious pass interference. And I hope those referees get chewed out by the league office because they had no control of that game. An awful job by them all day. But that no call on the pass interference, that's just as blatant pass interference as you can get with the Eagles an opportunity to score a touchdown in 1 play on the 4-yard line. it's hard to fathom how awful an officiating crew could be that late in a game. But it was one of the worst officiated games I've seen in a long time, top to bottom.
Yeah, it sucks. I hate it when that becomes like a distraction in the game, and I did feel that was the case yesterday. Ultimately, a loss is a loss. This is one they got to wipe their hands, move on, and hopefully beat up on the New York Giants next week, because I think that is a good spot in the schedule for them to face this matchup.
Yeah, look, I think it's good and bad. Short week, so it's hard to clean up and address a lot of the things they need to in a short week. And there's also a lot of injuries they're dealing with, especially the offensive line we've been talking about all day. So they're not going to get healthy in 3 days. And so I think there's good and bad playing on a short week. You obviously want to flush this because it was a bad game, but there's a lot you got to learn from. You just got to beat the Giants, then get into that mini bye when you won't play again until next Sunday. So, I mean, losing the Giants would be inexcusable. That would be real. The sky is falling in Philadelphia type stuff.
Yeah, no, agreed there. And I don't think that is going to be the pathway that we go down. I think this team will wake up to an extent. And I think the Eagles playing their C+ football still beats this New York Giants team, which we'll see. They obviously got to find a way to start putting some A's on the paper and look like the best team in football, the Super Bowl defending champions that they are. But I'm ready to wash my hands and move on from this week. So let's get on to the game that actually made me a little bit even more fired up this weekend. And that took place on Saturday night with the Philadelphia Phillies dropping game one at the hands of the Los Angeles Dodgers. They took a 3-0 lead and were unable to keep it there. That 5 runs being put on the board by the Dodgers late in that matchup, taking home field advantage right back, taking people's hearts out in Citizens Bank Park there. It was frustrating to me. Sam, what were your initial thoughts on Saturday night's game?
Same old Phillies.
Wow.
And this is probably the end. Of this group together. I mean, that was Luke said it last week, who's been covering and following the Phillies more than any person on earth, maybe this entire season. He said game one was the season. And Luke Arcani, of course, our good friend, he said game one was the season. Whoever wins game one is going to win the series. And it's hard to imagine the Phillies coming back. I mean, it's possible, but winning 3 out of 4 against a team like the Dodgers, who don't have the greatest pitching coming up, and we know their bullpen isn't great. Tyler Glasnow was phenomenal. That's a starter coming out of the bullpen for them, who was great on Saturday night. So it's possible. We've seen crazier stuff in sports and in baseball, but winning 3 out of 4 against this team is going to be really difficult. It was same old Phillies because it was.
They had it.
It's stuff. They had it, and they blew it. Forget the decision to bring in David Robertson and as the guy to relieve Christopher
Which we'll
Sanchez.
circle back to. We can both.
We'll circle back to. I'm sure you have thoughts on that, but forget that for a second. Their top of their lineup didn't produce when the bottom of the lineup did. I mean, that bottom of the lineup, starting with Bryson Stott, Alec Bowman, all those guys, those were the ones that built up that 3-0 run, the 3-0 lead. Excuse me. The top of the lineup didn't produce. You can't win baseball games with Kyle Schwarber, who's been your best hitter, best power hitter all season, and one of the best hitters in baseball, going 0 for 5, 0 for 4, 0 for 5, whatever he went. Bryce Harper did not produce. Trey Turner, who I didn't expect to produce because obviously he hadn't played in a real game in 5-6 weeks, something like that. So I didn't expect him to have come out there and immediately start getting on base like he did. But now there's no grace period for him. I don't care what his health status is. He has to produce tonight because he was the NL leader in batting average, and he needs to get on base. You cannot have your leadoff guy not getting on base, especially for Schwarber and Harper due up next. So those 3 guys just didn't produce at all. They were awful actually in that game, and it's hard to win and produce enough runs when you're top of your lineup and your 3 best hitters aren't playing at the level they're capable of at and the level they played at throughout the regular season. And the bullpen obviously collapsed, and putting in David Robertson was an inexcusable decision when you have a fully healthy, well-rested pen coming into game one. It's hard to I think they could win tonight. It's I don't have a lot of confidence in it. It's just hard to imagine winning 3 out of 4 against a team as good as the Dodgers.
So I'll start positive since you went negative off the bat here.
How could you start anything but negative?
This Phillies team has been more resilient this year than we've seen in past versions of this Phillies team. We've seen this team get dog walked in a game and pick themselves up and look like themselves again in game 2. That has to happen tonight. I do believe that this Phillies team plays their best baseball. They're better than this Dodgers team. I think that to be the case.
100%.
But they did not play their best baseball in game one, and that is inexcusable if it does not happen. You're absolutely right that it starts to the top of the lineup. To rip right down, Trey Turner, 0 for 3 with 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Kyle Schwarber, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Bryce Harper, 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts there. I will say I thought Bryce looked the most competitive out of the 3 at the plate, that I thought he actually put together some decent at-bats. Schwarber is the guy I'm most disappointed in, that he looked lost up there. He was not on Shohei Ohtani's stuff whatsoever there, and just really got fanned down there. They were not competitive at bats whatsoever. And for a guy that we've campaigned should be MVP, a guy who put 50 whatever home runs that he put on the board this year, has been one of the best hitters in baseball and such a staple of this Phillies team. It just has to be more than that. Now, I do not excuse Rob Thompson in the pitching situations. That is a huge part of the blame pie to me. It starts with me with the decision to take Christopher Sanchez out of this game. And I understand they were starting to pick up his timing a little bit. You got to get him through the 6th inning there, because that's where this all starts to fall apart for me.
But it looked like he was reeling, though.
Yes,
I think Rob Thompson wanted to keep him out there, which is why he walked to the mound, just talked to him for a second, didn't end up taking him out. But then he just started reeling, and it was pretty obvious he was losing his stuff.
I agree, but you needed one more out. That's what I was holding out for. It was 1st and 3rd with 2 outs when he got subbed out of that game here. This is my take here, is Christopher Sanchez is an ace. Christopher Sanchez is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Start treating him like that. Show a little bit of trust in him. If that is Zach Wheeler in that spot, you're not pulling him from that game. And that's how I think Sanchez needs to be treated by this Philly staff here. Now, granted, if he's the guy that lets up that hit, I sound like an idiot here, and that's how things come off. But where this game really went off the tracks to me is then you bring in David Robertson to get that 1 out. Then for the first time this entire season, let's not forget David Robertson was sitting at home a couple months ago. That this was a guy essentially signed off the streets. He's 40 years old. Now, I know he's been with the Phillies for 3 different stints. We know who he is as a pitcher. But you're asking a dude to do something that he has not done the entire season, meaning close out an inning, take the half inning off, and then return to the mound. I get he has plenty of experience in baseball. I'm sure he's done that a ton of times in his career. I think that was a strong ass to have a guy do, and ultimately he was punished for it, because then he starts letting the bases get a little crowded. Then Matt Strahm comes in, can't close the door. The pitch tipping thing, by the way, I don't really want to hear. For starters, it's one thing to be able to identify what a guy's throwing, and I question if that's even the case here. There's clearly a signal being thrown from second base, the runner, that you can run into the hits there. The bottom line is Matt Strahm threw a meatball and got punished for it. That's what happened here. And even with the pitch tipping concept, we're not just talking about identifying a pitch and then the batter knows what's coming. You still have to execute, hit, all these kind of things. So I don't think it's as simple as people are trying to blow that thing out to be. But I feel that Rob Thompson did a really poor job of handling that entire sequence.
I'm with you. And who would you have preferred came in for David Robertson in that moment, assuming Christopher Sanchez
I'm curious, what's the Ranger Suarez outlook here? Because in my mind, the reason that you did not make him available, or that
he's the game 2 starter.
He's game 3 starter. It's Luzardo.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I thought they did that, was so you could have Ranger in game 1, was sort of the verbiage that was used, or my perception of why. So if that's your guy, that would have been who I trusted the most there. That would have been my option if he was really available. I did not like the way that sequence all happened.
I probably would have gone to Strahm immediately. And Strahm has been great all season.
Yeah.
He was put in a difficult situation there. And if he's given, not a clean slate necessarily, but put in a less difficult situation, I think that's where he's been better as a reliever this year. So it was handled poorly, but putting in David Robertson as the first guy out of the bullpen was just not the right decision. Johan Duran actually pitched well.
I hated that he came in the game too. Here's my thing is, when you're a closer, man, you're a closer. I am not pitching Johan Duran when this team is losing baseball games straight up ever. Now, the only case that
but why? Because it's a playoff game. He can give you 1 inning. You have a day of rest the next day. And it's like you're down 2 runs. You don't want to extend that lead. You still have trust in your lineup to potentially put a 3-run inning or a 2-run inning together in the bottom of the 9th. So you still don't want to give up any more runs, and you trust Duran more than anyone else out of the bullpen. I didn't really have a problem with that.
I need Johan Duran to be unhittable here. And the more looks you give at a guy, the less likely that becomes. That to me is the guy you keep on the shelf for, you're not touching this dude. He's coming in and getting 3 outs. I just didn't like that the first real look the Dodgers are getting at him from the Phillies' perspective is while they're losing the baseball game.
They just can't do the whole
intro. That's insane.
If they're losing a game, you just cannot do the introduction.
Did they not talk about that before? Did they not have a plan of maybe let's keep this one on the shelf if they're losing a baseball game, because that is absurd. That is like
People were complaining when they did it in a tie game in the regular season earlier this year.
I
But then you
kind of
do it
agree
when
with
they're
that too.
losing in a
Yeah.
playoff game when everyone's antsy and nobody wants that in that moment. So they got to figure that out at Citizens Bank Park. What did you think about the decision of Nick Castellanos coming in for Harrison Bader, which a lot of people were critical of, but at the time I was like, Harrison Bader's probably hurt. I mean, he had the diving catch, which looks like he hurt his hamstring on that. And then he gets hit by a ball thrown to second base and his arm or elbow or something. So that wasn't really the injury, but it looked like he could have been hurt. So normally I would have preferred Casty, probably not even coming in the game at all, but if he was, for Kepler. But because Bader was hurt, and I don't know what the lineup's going to look like tonight, but Bader might be out of it and Casty in. Because Bader was hurt, I think it was made sense for Casty to come in that spot. And Kepler ended up getting a hit after that too.
Yeah, if Bader was not hurt, it would have been pretty inexcusable to me. I think like pretty quickly after the fact, we all were theorizing, piecing together that was probably the case, and that's ultimately what proved to be true. I do fear that we've probably seen Harrison Bader for the last time in these playoffs, that they're calling it a groin injury. We know how muscle injuries linger, and that's not exactly something you can just play through there. I know that Rob Thompson said that there would be more information available about it today, so we'll see what kind of timeline we're looking at. Obviously, hoping for the best, as Bader has become an extremely important part of this Phillies team, and I think makes the entire outfield just makes sense there. When it first happened, I was really critical that it was for Bader and not for Kepler there. It made sense once we found out that Bader was obviously injured, but that's a big deal, not having Harrison Bader moving forward, if that is going to be the case there. So I didn't love it from Rob Thompson. I will throw the hat tip. I did love that Edmundo Sosa giving him a chance there. It did not work out, obviously, that he was unable to be a hero and flew out with the bases loaded in what could have been a game-changing moment. But I did think that was the right button to push. Sometimes things just don't work out.
So what's your outlook on tonight?
I mean, you said it right off the top that it is the top dogs. They have to win. Luzardo has to shove. I do think he's going to. That I think Luzardo is a guy. It makes sense to me to align him with the home game. He is a dude who feeds off the crowd, pitches with some emotion there, and I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a double-digit strikeout game for Luzardo. That he's going to
double-digit strikeout game.
Oh, yeah, he's done it several times this year, and I think he's going to do it again tonight. When he's clicking, it's untouchable stuff. That probably means not a super deep in the game, but I think we get 6 innings from Luzardo, 6 strong innings, maybe 1 earned run allowed, and I think the bats come alive a little bit. That I do refuse to believe that Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper are going to look like that in back-to-back games there. They got to win this one. I do think they get the job done. This team's going to be hungry.
Yeah, I mean, the reason for optimism is that it's Schwarber and Harper and Trey Turner's coming off that injury, so he's rusty. But those 2 guys I trust more than anyone in the lineup to get it going after they're struggling. Like if Bohm was struggling or Stott or some of those guys were struggling at this moment, it would be like, all right, this is the production you're getting from them the rest of the way. I don't like Harper and Schwarber fully I fully expect them to turn around. So if the bottom of the lineup continues to produce, and the top of the lineup finally gets going, and Schwarber actually does what Schwarber has been doing all regular season, and Harper and Turner can get on base, then I will be way more confident. But the thing is, whatever it's been, whoever it's been, whatever part of the lineup it's been, we've seen it before the last 2 postseasons where these bats just go ice cold, and it just does not matter. And I think that's why everyone was so pissed Saturday night, because we saw it again. And it was the top of the lineup. It was your superstars. And they just went ice cold, which we've seen time and time again. And that's why we've had these playoff exits the last 2 seasons.
The other thing that I just desperately need to see from a change perspective, and I understand this has not been the identity of this Phillies team whatsoever, I need good at bats in terms of working counts, taking pitches. Do by any means necessary get the Dodgers starter out of the game. Their starting pitching is unbelievable. It'll be Blake Snell on the hump today. Their bullpen is atrocious. That I do not like. If you can get to their bullpen, they are going to win this baseball game, but you have to allow that to be the case. Shohei Ohtani skated free far too easily in the past game. There was not a conscious effort of working counts, taking pitches. That has to be the case for the duration of this series. Do whatever is necessary to get to that bullpen. And obviously the Dodgers not allowing that to be a case anyway by throwing Glass now out of the pen. They're not going to be able to do that every game here. So do whatever it takes to get to that bullpen. And that's where I really think things can swing in this Phillies team's favor.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You obviously have to get the Dodgers bullpen. That was the plan that everyone was talking about coming in, and they didn't do that.
Didn't do a
They
good
just
job,
didn't do that. I mean, Shohei, you thought he was kind of reeling a little bit after.
He's incredible, man.
after he's just unfazed. But
Yeah.
after the Phillies put those 3 runs together and went and took a lead, you thought he was reeling a little bit. Then he comes back and he starts pitching better after that stretch because he is completely unfazed. I mean, there's no atmosphere or road environment that could bother him for a second. And so he was terrific on the mound. But yeah, Tyler Glasnow comes in and he's a starting caliber pitcher. You have to get deeper in the Dodgers bullpen. And if you're right, if the Phillies don't put solid at bats together and work counts, then it's never going to happen. But it's do or die night. I mean, this is everything.
Yeah. Shohei is incredible, man. It blows my mind. Like I would like to be the contrarian of this guy's not that good or this guy's overrated. You just can't. Like he's
So good.
something else. He is. I really do believe that when everything is said and done, when he gets to the duration of his career, he's going to be the best baseball player of all time.
Yeah, it's probably not that crazy of a take, given what he's done on the mound and as a hitter.
I've never seen
accolades, the
like
MVPs,
this.
the World Series, all that stuff will be there.
Yeah, and he's just getting started as far as those accolades go. He's got a lot more years that he's going to be raking up those things, but we're not worried about that for now. We have the Phillies to focus on. Who's the guy with the most pressure on him, you think, heading into game 2? I think there's a couple different answers that are fair here.
I think it's Schwarber.
Okay.
I think it's completely inexcusable if you put the regular season that you've had together and you just completely drop the ball in the postseason and just let your teammates down and can't produce. Forget like home runs, just big time hits. And obviously 56 home runs in the regular season. That's ridiculous. No one's saying he has to be on that pace over the stretch of the playoffs, but you have to be a power hitter that we've seen throughout the regular season. So I think after an 0-4 showing, there's a ton of pressure on Kyle Schwarber to produce, because this is a guy that everyone's saying pay. Because of how great he was during the regular season. He was as big of a part of the Phillies as anybody, probably the MVP of the Phillies throughout the regular season. And then if you come in the playoffs and don't produce at all, and a big reason why they lose and can't even get past the division series, then it's like, is it really a blank check worth throwing at him? That's a question you have to have. So I think there's a ton of pressure on Kyle Schwarber tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I will say the fly ball he had, I thought he got one, man.
When it went off the bat, I thought he did too, but it didn't. So what are you going to say?
Yeah, and that is what matters there. But, man, off the bat, I did think that was sweet there. I'm going to go Rob Thompson for most pressure on him, because I really do feel that I think there's been very few times that you can hold Topper's feet to the fire and say it's been his fault. I think generally it's unfair, a lot of the criticism he receives. But the fact of the matter is, if they fail to get over the hump once again, changes are incoming, and I think that is going to be a direction where the organization at least has to look. I don't think that's fair to Rob Thompson, but game 1 was one of the first times in his entire tenure where I felt he actively made their chances of winning that game worse, that I did not think he pushed the right buttons from the bullpen perspective or a lot of the decision-making process there. So fair or unfair, I think Rob Thompson is a guy with quite a bit of pressure on him as well.
I think that's a good answer, because he's on a theoretical hot seat. Look, I don't know the inner workings of the organization that well to say how they view his future there and what they've discussed throughout the season, because of course those discussions take place. But there definitely would be if they lose in the NLDS for the second straight year. I don't know if they would view it as, all right, we play the Dodgers, this team is going to end up winning the World Series, and that's just the unluck of the draw. We still had a great regular season. We probably still would have been the second best team in baseball. Would it be any other team in the AL or NL to get to the World Series? I don't know if they would view it like that and place the blame on him, but it is like changes would be coming. And that, first and foremost, that would be with the lineup. Like this lineup would just be done if they lose in the NLDS again. You just cannot roll this lineup out there for the 5th straight year and expect different results. But again, the manager, I think Thompson's good. I think he takes too much crap sometimes.
I agree.
But it's a direction they would look for sure.
Yeah, will be interesting, and hopefully we're not heading down that pathway. So a huge game 2 tonight. Jesus Luzardo, it's got to be a gem. This lineup's got to pick things up. We got to get ready to wrap things up here pretty soon, but a couple quick more hitters here. I know obviously you like to take this opportunity to sing the praise of Justin Herbert's MVP campaign.
I was going to do Drake May, actually, his MVP campaign.
Oh, yeah. Switching, getting off the hype train a little bit there. But yeah, any thoughts on Justin Herbert's performance and loss to the Washington Commanders yesterday?
Yeah, 2 rough weeks for Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
And the Chargers. 2 rough weeks against NFC East opponents, the Giants and the Commanders. I'm not worried. I still have seen Justin Herbert when he's at his best. He's not going to win the MVP this year, but I've seen him when he's at his best out of the regular season, of how dominant he can be and how he can be a reliant quarterback. So I'm not worried, but yeah, he didn't play well. That interception in the end zone that I went and watched back again this morning, just a boneheaded play. I mean, just awful decision making that we kind of thought in year 6 that Justin Herbert would have graduated from. And you've seen Jalen Hurts graduate from that throughout Jalen Hurts' career, where he doesn't make those boneheaded decisions
Well,
anymore.
Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback.
I agree, but I just don't expect that from Herbert anymore in those moments. But it wasn't his best. It wasn't his best outing, and yes, the last 2 weeks have been rough for him and the Chargers. And he has to play better, and the team has to play better. They didn't have any running game yesterday, which is problematic. But if it's going to be on Justin Herbert's arm, he has to prove that he's capable of being a high volume passer, because that's what elite quarterbacks do in this league. So I'm not worried, but it's been a rough stretch.
Sure, Jalen Hurts, if he didn't have a run game yesterday, that probably would have taken away his whole game, right? He probably would have looked atrocious too. That's how that goes.
Jalen Hurts was great yesterday.
Yeah, I just keep saying, Sam Oshtry, there ain't no such thing as halfway crooks, my friend. You cannot hide forever that the truth does come to light, and that's what we're seeing with Justin Herbert right now. He's already thrown more interceptions.
But you don't say that when he goes on like 3 straight weeks of playing great football, and he's gonna have a 5-game stretch of great football in the middle of this regular season, and we're not gonna hear from you. But then there's 2 weeks. There's 2 weeks when you pop out of the woodwork.
I'm here, Sam Oshtry. I'm having the conversation with you. I've watched the games. I see the numbers. I just watched Justin Herbert with the game on the line in the red zone stare down a wide receiver and throw it at the linebacker's chest, man. Like that was like Geno Smith, like that was Daniel Jones, like that was like I don't even know what quarterback to contextualize that. It should not be Justin Herbert in year 6. The dude's 27 years old, man. This is not some up and comer. This is who Justin Herbert is at this stage of the game. Let's just keep the facts as facts.
I don't think that's true, because we've seen him progress from year 3 to year 4 to year 5. He's developed into a really good quarterback that you can trust throughout the regular season. And he was finally paired with one of the best coaches in football in Jim Harbaugh, who I really think helped his development and confidence. So, yeah, he's been through a rough 2-week stretch. I'm not going to sound the alarms that the Justin Herbert experiment is over. They're going to get to the playoffs. He's going to play great football the rest of the way, and then we'll see what happens in the postseason.
All right, you want to sing some praises for your boy Drake May?
Yeah, I mean, he was fun. He outplayed Josh Allen.
That was a big boy win last night.
That was the best win and game of Drake May's young career. It was the first primetime game, first Sunday night football game Sunday night football game, I should say, that he's played in. And he delivered on a huge stage on the road at Orchard Park in Buffalo. He was making throws that you only see a handful of quarterbacks in this league make. And he did the Josh Allen against Josh Allen's team, where he was getting dragged down by his jersey and his collar, and he was still finding ways to escape the pocket and make plays, and made a ton of plays with his legs, showed off his strong arm. Stephon Diggs was great and really emerged as wide receiver 1 yesterday. But that was the best we've seen Drake May. And if that is his ceiling, this guy is a top 10 quarterback in the league. We have to see it happen consistently, but that wasn't some bad defense they just played. The Bills have allowed the second fewest passing yards per game this season. The Bills defense has had some moments, not as so great against the rush, but really good against the pass so far this year. And Drake May just exposed them. And this was a second-year quarterback who didn't even have a full rookie season. So it's Mike Vrabel, the culture that he's built. They went out and got a lot of free agents to contend now. And right now they're 3-2, but it's paying off. And they could have been 4-1 without Ramondre Stevenson fumbling the ball 4 or 5 times.
Get that man off the field, by the way. Get him off the field.
I mean, it's they must not trust Trevion Henderson that much.
He's fumbled 6 times, bro.
I know, but like Trevion Henderson should be the guy that gets the rock.
Yes.
Be a full-time, an early down back at this point, based on Stevenson's fumble history. But this was the Drake May game. This was his coming out party where this guy is the future. He's the real deal. And the Patriots finally have a quarterback, and they're back in the mix. They are in playoff contention this season.
Yeah, they're a frisky team in the AFC there that I don't think many teams, and the defense looks legitimate. And for the Drake May conversation, I think it gets forgotten a little bit in comparison to the other rookies. Drake May is extremely young, man. Like I mean, he
didn't have the best rookie season, but like I would take him over any of those guys in that class, except Jaden Daniels right now.
But my point would be, like, he had that rookie season. At the same time, Jaden Daniels was like a junior in college. Like, he's on a different timeline than these guys, which I think should be kept in mind as we start to compare. So shout out to Drake May, a little bit of coming out performance there. Any last final words for you on this NFL week?
I don't think so. A lot of blowouts. Pretty
Some comebacks.
mundane. Yeah, some comebacks too. Titans finally get a win. The Cardinals. I mean, one of the more bizarre ways to lose a football game. I had to watch that back too. Like how they actually lost that game by
It
doing
makes
that.
sense. Yeah.
I mean, Jonathan Gannon is on the hot seat. I don't know if he lasts past this season. That was just an inexcusable loss. Just that's the dumbest football team and dumbest loss we've seen and we will see all year. But no, it was a modest slate, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I agree. A little bit of a, we're getting through the season. Week 5 is in the books now. We'll conclude with a Chiefs versus Jaguars matchup tonight. I will have my full eyes on the Philadelphia Phillies and be locked in for every single pitch of
I
that
don't
one.
think Monday Night Football is getting a screen tonight.
Yeah, I will say, the game will be over by the time that we're hitting primetime Monday Night Football, so you can get the best of both worlds here. But yeah, that's going to do it for me and Sam here today on Fox Sports Gambler. Make sure to keep it locked on that dials. We got plenty more coming on the other side. Hopefully talking in better spirits the next time we are here about a Phillies win and a chance at still winning the World Series. A lot to clean up in the Eagles, the Phillies, and everything else in Philadelphia right now. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribing wherever you're listening, and me and Sam will be back to talk with you next time. Peace.